In every corner of the world, there are secrets. Stories that have existed beyond understanding, patiently waiting. And we've come to uncover those secrets, to venture into places where darkness never ends. Welcome to Dynamic Dark. Welcome to a brand new horror episode. Welcome to episode 53. I'm Aditya and today I bring you 3 terrifying haunted stories. New stories, new week, new fear. In our last episode, episode 52, we explored chilling creepypasta horror stories. If you missed it, the link is in the description. Make sure to check it out. So, let's begin episode 53. If you are new here, don't forget to like, subscribe, and enable notifications bell if you dare to see what comes next. Today we'll explore 3 haunted stories, each terrifying in its own way. The first story is the endless hallway. The second story is the growing room. And the third story is the shifting theater. If you love horror like this, then you are in the right place, because only on Dynamic Dark will you experience creepypasta style horror blended with real psychological and haunted elements. For the best experience, put on your earphones or headset. Let the darkness, the suspense, and the fear consume you. Now, let's begin today's first story, Endless Hallway. He thought it was just another old mansion, a place that had seen better days but held nothing more than dust and echoes. The moment he stepped inside that hallway, though, the air felt different, thicker, heavier, almost alive. Each breath felt dense, and the scent of old wood, mildew, and something unplaceable lingered in his nose. The floorboards groaned under his every step, each creak echoing far too long, as if the house were aware of him, listening to him. At first, the hallway seemed ordinary, simple wooden doors lining both sides, wallpaper peeling slightly, and a dim light that flickered from a lone bulb over him. But as he walked, the walls seemed to shift ever so slightly. The further he went, the longer the hallway became. What had felt like a short walk stretched into what seemed like miles. Doors appeared where there had been none before. Other doors vanished, leaving blank sections of wall behind him. He paused, feeling a chill crawl down his spine. The corners seemed darker than they should have been, filled with shadows that flickered just out of the corner of his eye. He told himself it was nothing, just tricks of the light, but deep down, he knew better. Something watched him. Something black, silent, waiting. He tried to turn back. But the hallway behind him, it wasn't the same. The doors had moved. The floor seemed longer, deeper, twisting in ways that made his stomach turn. Each step forward now felt like sinking into a living maze, a place that was reshaping itself around him. His heartbeat quickened. The air grew colder, heavier, and every breath felt like inhaling fear itself. Then he noticed it, a flicker, a movement in one of the corners. Just a shadow at first. But the longer he stared, the more he saw black humanoid shapes, motionless, featureless, watching silently. They didn't move toward him, didn't speak, yet their presence pressed on him, tightening around his chest. He could feel their eyes, hollow and empty, boring into him from every dark corner. Every instinct screamed at him to run. But where could he go? Every turn led only to more hallway, more doors, more shadows. And as he took another step forward, he realized he was no longer walking in a hallway. He was walking into something alive, something ancient, something that had been waiting for him, the endless hallway had begun to claim him. Asterisk. As Ethan Ward walked deeper into the endless hallway, something shifted in the darkness ahead. At first, he told himself it was just the weak light flickering above him. But then he saw it again, movement, slow and deliberate, brushing right at the edge of his vision. Every time he turned his head, the shadows froze, melting perfectly into the darkness as if they had never been there at all. But Ethan wasn't imagining it. He knew he wasn't. Because the moment he looked away, the shadows moved again. Shapes began forming, tall, black figures standing just far enough to stay unclear. They were humanoid but completely featureless, as if carved out of pure darkness. They didn't blink, didn't sway, didn't breathe. They simply watched him, silent and still, their bodies absorbing every bit of light that touched them. A heavy pressure settled on Ethan's chest, squeezing him with every step he took. He could feel their presence sinking with him, matching his pace, echoing the rhythm of his heartbeat. The air around him grew colder, the lights hummed like they were dying, and even the floorboards moaned beneath his feet as if warning him not to go further. Every few steps, he heard it a soft drag, like bare feet sliding across old wooden floors, but never close enough to see. Sometimes it was even worse, a faint whisper, too low to be words, too real to be ignored. Ethan spun around again and again, but each time, the hallway behind him looked unchanged, endless, empty. Yet just before he turned each time, he always saw it. A flicker. A shadow slipping out of sight. A black figure pulling itself back into the darkness. They didn't approach him. Not directly. But they were closer now. He could feel their hollow, empty eyes pressing into his back. Patient. Calculating. And that's when the truth hit him, with a coldness deeper than any ghostly touch. These shadows weren't following Ethan Ward. They were leading him somewhere deeper. Asterisk. Each step Ethan Ward took, the hallway stretched further, wider, impossible. The walls seemed to breathe, pulsing subtly as if alive. A door he had passed just moments ago now opened to a corridor that twisted in ways that defied logic, turning back on itself or extending endlessly, like a reflection in a broken mirror. His heartbeat quickened, echoing unnaturally against the warped floorboards, every creak amplifying the sense that the house itself was aware of him. Panic began to rise. He tried to retrace his steps, to find the hallway he had just walked through, but nothing was where it had been. The doors shifted positions, walls angled in impossible directions, and the faint flicker of overhead lights stretched the shadows unnaturally. The hallway had swallowed him, a living maze that seemed to feed on his fear, twisting with each step he took, expanding without end. From the edges of his vision, the white-faced ghosts emerged again, tall, black figures with smooth human-like bodies, their faces replaced by swirling voids containing faint, orbiting lights. They glided silently, drifting just behind him, moving with the hallway as if they were part of its expansion. Ethan could feel the cold pressure of their presence, wrapping around him, almost tangible, but they didn't approach directly, they just observed, patient and calculating. Every corner he turned, the hallway seemed to grow taller, longer. Balconies appeared suddenly above him, stretching impossibly high, doors stacked in ways that made no architectural sense. Shadows flickered across the warped walls, blending with the void-face figures, making it impossible to tell what was part of the building and what was alive. The floor seemed to stretch and sink slightly beneath him with every step, as if trying to pull him deeper into the maze. A low, Resonating hum filled the air, mixed with faint whispers and dragging sounds, echoing from no particular source. Ethan realized in horror, the hallway wasn't just endless, it was hungry. It adapted, twisted, and stretched to trap him, feeding off the rising fear in his chest. Every attempt to find an exit only led him further in, deeper into the impossible geometry of the mansion, with the void-faced ghosts gliding silently, always watching, and the hallway itself alive, reshaping, expanding, growing. Asterisk. The distant sound of footsteps echoed softly behind Ethan Ward. He froze, straining his ears. Turning quickly, he saw nothing, just the endless hallway stretching before him, doors and walls unchanged, yet somehow unfamiliar. Shadows flickered at the edge of his vision, subtle movements that vanished when he tried to look directly. The air had grown colder, heavier, pressing down on him with each breath. Every heartbeat felt louder than the last, hammering in his chest, making the silence of the hallway almost unbearable. He tried to move faster, but the hallway seemed to stretch just a little further with each step, twisting and bending in ways that didn't make sense. Every door he passed no longer led anywhere familiar. He had walked past them only moments ago, yet now they opened into more of the same endless corridor, feeding his rising sense of panic. The feeling of being watched grew stronger. Shadows seemed to cling to the corners, shifting in ways that made him question his own vision. Ethan's chest tightened. He could feel it, the hallway isolating him, drawing him deeper into its endless loops. Every step, every flicker of shadow, every creak of the floor heightened the tension, making him realize he wasn't just physically trapped. The hallway had a way of twisting reality, of trapping the mind in its silent, oppressive maze. He was alone, yet never truly alone. The hallway was alive, and it was aware of him. Asterisk. Suddenly, one of the black figures stepped forward. Just for a moment, its hollow eyes boring into Ethan Ward's soul. He froze completely, his breath caught in his chest. Every instinct screamed at him to run, but his legs refused to move, as if rooted to the warped wooden floor. The hallway stretched endlessly on both sides, twisting in ways that seemed impossible, doors shifting subtly, walls bending as though they were alive. A shiver ran down his spine as shadows began to multiply. They flickered along the walls, slinking out from corners and emerging from doors that hadn't existed a second ago. Each movement he made seemed to echo unnaturally, bouncing back from the distant walls, amplifying the oppressive silence. Fear gripped him in waves, each one stronger than the last, making his heart pound in rhythm with the creaking floorboards. Ethan tried to steady himself, forcing his legs to move forward, but the hallway seemed to resist. Every step he took, the corridor elongated slightly, twisting around him, leading him deeper into its impossible geometry. He turned a corner, hoping to find something familiar, only to discover another identical hallway, stretching endlessly with the same flickering lights, peeling wallpaper, and warped wooden floors. The doors were familiar, yet different, as if the hallway was reshaping itself around him. The black figures lingered at the edges of his vision, just out of reach. He could feel their presence pressing in on him, always observing, never approaching directly. His imagination ran wild. He thought he saw shapes moving in the dark, shadows taking forms that weren't human, edges that bent unnaturally, and fleeting glimpses of figures that seemed impossible. Every breath felt trapped, heavy, as though the air itself was thickening, resisting him, making each inhale a conscious effort. Panic began to rise uncontrollably. The hallway had become more than walls and doors. It was a living entity, feeding on his fear. Every flicker of shadow, every shifting door, every creaking floorboard made it clear he was trapped. The space around him seemed infinite, yet claustrophobic, a paradox that twisted his perception and made it impossible to tell which way was forward. He stumbled slightly, catching himself on a warped doorframe, his heartbeat loud and irregular. The black figures didn't move closer, yet their presence was undeniable, filling the space with silent menace. The shadows seemed to mimic him, stretching and bending in ways that made no sense, appearing where he had just looked, disappearing when he glanced back. Ethan's chest tightened with realization. The hallway wasn't just a trap, it was alive, aware of him, and designed to isolate him completely. He was utterly alone, yet never truly alone. The black figures, the shifting walls, the impossible doors, they were all extensions of the hallway's will. He felt hunted, observed, and manipulated by a place that defied logic, reason, and reality. And still, he moved forward, one cautious step at a time, his mind straining to make sense of the endless, oppressive corridor. Each flicker of shadow, each distant creak, each impossible turn reminded him that the hallway was not simply a building, but a living, breathing nightmare. He was trapped inside it, watched constantly, every step feeding its hunger for fear. Asterisk. Hours, or maybe days. Ethan Ward had lost all sense of time. The hallway stretched endlessly in both directions, doors and walls twisting subtly, expanding and bending as though the corridor itself were alive. Weak flickering lights overhead cast shadows that never stayed still, moving in strange, unnatural ways across the peeling walls and warped floorboards. The whispers in the corners grew louder, almost like voices just out of reach, repeating words he couldn't understand. Every door he opened led to another identical hallway, stretching farther and farther, with no end in sight. The patterns of the walls, the creaks of the floor, and the dim lights became a rhythm, but one that made no sense, a disorienting, looping cadence that pressed on his mind. At the edges of his vision, the black figures lingered, silent, patient, and unyielding. They were like extensions of the hallway itself, waiting for him, observing every movement. Sometimes he thought one moved closer, but when he turned fully to face it, it was always just at the edge of the corridor, watching. Their presence was oppressive, a constant weight that pressed down on his chest, making each breath feel trapped, each heartbeat louder than the last. Panic gnawed at him, spreading from his chest to his stomach, making it impossible to think clearly. No matter which way he turned, the corridor twisted back upon itself. Every hallway looked familiar yet unfamiliar, as if reality were folding in on itself. Doors appeared where none had been, shadows lengthened impossibly, and the black ghosts seemed to multiply, always just out of reach, their silent observation like claws on his mind. Ethan realized with a sinking, horrifying certainty he would never leave. The endless hallway had claimed him. It was not just a place, but a living entity, reshaping, stretching, and twisting to trap him completely. Every step forward only took him deeper, and every sound, floor creaks, whispers, the distant drag of unseen feet reminded him that the corridor would never relent. He was utterly alone, and yet never truly alone, surrounded by shadows that waited, patient, hungry, eternal. As he took another tentative step, Ethan's vision blurred at the edges, the hallway expanding beyond what his eyes could see. The whispers intensified, the black figures remained, unyielding, and he understood that he was trapped in a nightmare without end. The endless hallway had become his world, and there was no escape, only the infinite stretch of corridors and the silent, watchful presence of the shadows that would never let him go. Asterisk. The second story is the growing room. She had rented a small, cramped room in an old building, drawn by its cheap rent and the quaint, cozy charm she imagined. The walls were painted a pale cream, peeling slightly in the corners, and the ceiling was low, giving the space a snug, enclosed feeling. At first, it seemed perfect, manageable, even comforting. But that first night, as she settled in, a strange unease settled over her. She thought she heard the faintest creak, as if the room itself were sighing or shifting subtly beneath her. She shook her head, blaming the old floorboards, the settling of the building. But then she noticed it, the corner near the wardrobe seemed slightly farther away than it had moments before. The walls weren't exactly moving in a way she could pinpoint, but there was a subtle stretching, a sense that the space was growing imperceptibly larger while still maintaining its original shape. The ceiling seemed higher, though only by an inch or two. She rubbed her eyes, convinced it was fatigue, yet the sensation persisted. Every object in the room, her bed, the small table, the wardrobe, remained the same size. Yet the space between them was slowly widening, edges of the floorboards subtly farther apart, shadows stretching longer than they should. Her pulse quickened. Each glance around the room revealed a slightly altered perspective. The corners felt farther away, the ceiling just beyond reach, as if the room were slowly breathing, expanding just enough to be noticed in the shadows. She tried to sleep, but every sound, the creak of the building, the whisper of wind through a cracked window magnified her awareness. The room had become alien, familiar yet wrong. Her mind strained to comprehend it. Every few minutes, a wall would seem slightly farther, a corner slightly larger, yet nothing tangible shifted. It was impossible to measure, impossible to predict. She could feel the presence of something watching, aware, feeding on her growing unease. Hours passed, though she couldn't tell how many. She moved from the bed to the table, to the wardrobe, and each step revealed subtle distortions, the floorboards stretching slightly beneath her feet, the walls pulsing outward just enough to unnerve her. Her heartbeat thrummed in her ears. The air felt heavier, thick, as if the room's expansion had a physical weight pressing down on her. She realized with a creeping dread that this was no ordinary room. It wasn't just expanding, it was alive, shifting to an unknowable rhythm, subtle but insistent. By morning, she was exhausted, eyes wide, muscles tense. The room looked the same to anyone else, perfectly ordinary, yet she knew the truth. Every corner, every wall, every inch of space had changed while she slept, stretching the room in ways that defied logic. Something was wrong, terribly, horrifyingly wrong. And she feared the next night, when the room would continue its slow, unnatural growth, and she would be trapped within its ever-expanding walls. Asterisk. By midnight, the room Maya Singh had rented had changed completely. What had seemed cozy and cramped now stretched impossibly, the walls expanding into a vast hall that defied logic. Pale cream paint peeled in corners, and the ceiling rose high above, fading into shadow. Floorboards creaked under her steps, now echoing through the enormous space, amplifying her unease. Strange doors had appeared along the walls, none matching the building's plan. Some were simple wooden doors, others ornate, almost antique, yet all seemed out of place, as if they had grown here with the room itself. Maya approached the first, hesitant, and when she opened it, she saw a corridor she had never walked before. Another door revealed a dark forest under a foggy sky, shadows of unseen trees moving like living things. Another doorway shocked her. The room led to her own bedroom at home, yet everything was distorted, elongated, walls bending unnaturally, furniture warped, shadows stretching in impossible directions. She stepped back, heart hammering, and each door seemed to pulse subtly, inviting and threatening all at once. At the edge of her vision, black shadows lurked, motionless yet unmistakably present, watching from corners, slipping along walls, disappearing when she tried to look directly at them. Each time she moved closer to a doorway, the shadows seemed to lengthen, stretching just beyond her reach, waiting, patient, and silent. The hallways within the doors twisted reality, each space different from the last, impossible to map or remember. Maya wandered from door to door, trying to find a pattern, trying to make sense of the expansion, but the room had grown far beyond logic. The ceiling and walls seemed to breathe subtly, moving in rhythm with the shadows, creating a sense that the hall was alive, aware of her presence, and responding to her fear. Hours, or perhaps minutes, she could not tell, passed as she explored the endless hall. Every step, every glance revealed new doors, new spaces, all watched by the silent black shadows lurking at the edges. Maya realized with a shiver that the room, the hall, and the doors themselves were no longer part of the building she had rented. They existed in a space that bent reality itself. Fear rose like a tide in her chest. The shadows did not approach, but their presence was oppressive, their silent observation heavier than any weight. She understood then, with a cold certainty, that she could not leave. The room had grown into something vast, something alive, and every door she opened only reminded her that the black shadows were always there, watching, patient, omnipresent, and the hall would never end. Asterisk. Maya Singh had begun to accept the subtle, unsettling changes in her room, but by the third night, something far stranger began. New windows appeared along walls where none had existed before. At first, she thought her eyes were playing tricks, but the panes were solid, real, and reflected dim, distorted light from the hall. Each window framed a scene that shouldn't exist in her world. Some showed foggy, deserted streets that stretched endlessly into mist. Others revealed empty forests with gnarled trees, their twisted branches reaching as if to grab at her. Occasionally, she saw her own apartment but warped, with crooked walls, elongated furniture, and hallways that bent impossibly. The familiar became alien, the ordinary grotesque. She would step closer to a window to see it more clearly, and at the edge of her vision, black figures lurked. Humanoid but featureless, they appeared for a split second in the glass, standing perfectly still, their forms like dense, writhing smoke, red glows flickering faintly inside. When she blinked or tried to focus directly, they vanished, leaving only the distorted scene behind. Maya's pulse raced as she moved from window to window. The room itself seemed to react, walls subtly stretching, corners bending, as if aware of her gaze. The floorboards creaked beneath her weight, echoing unnaturally in the hall's expanding space. Shadows lengthened across walls and ceilings, some connected to the black figures, their presence silent but oppressive, watching, waiting. Hours passed, or minutes, she couldn't tell. Each glance at a new window revealed something more disturbing, a fog-filled street that seemed to reach endlessly, a forest with whispering trees, her bedroom reflected in impossible proportions. The black figures appeared intermittently, always just long enough to be noticed, just short enough to escape her comprehension. By the end of the night, Maya understood that the room's expansion had reached a new stage. It was no longer simply growing or forming doors. it was creating portals to impossible places, each watched over by the silent, stalking black figures. The windows were not windows at all, they were gateways, mirrors to otherworldly spaces, each one amplifying the tension, the disorientation, and the sense that she was trapped in a place that bent reality itself. Asterisk. Maya Singh had begun to notice the room's subtle changes, but now the scale of the horror became undeniable. Every attempt she made to leave, to step toward a door or window, revealed more space than should have existed. The walls stretched imperceptibly, the ceiling rising higher, the floorboards bending and groaning under her steps. The room seemed alive, a breathing, conscious entity feeding on her fear. Along the edges of her vision, black ghosts, tall, featureless, humanoid shapes made of dense smoke with faint red glows inside, began to multiply. At first she saw only one, then two, then more, their forms appearing and vanishing at the corners, sometimes partially blocking doorways, sometimes hovering silently over the windows. Every shadow seemed to stretch and flicker unnaturally, distorting the room, reflecting a warped version of reality. Panic began to take hold. The more she tried to rationalize, the faster the room changed. Walls shifted slightly when she looked away, doors appeared where there had been none, windows showed impossible landscapes. The black ghosts followed her movements, silently stalking, always at the edge of her vision, never fully confronting her, but their presence was overwhelming. She tried to hide in a corner, pressing herself against the wall, but the shadows multiplied around her. They slithered across the floorboards, elongated and bending as the room expanded. Sometimes she caught a glimpse of them in a window reflection, standing still, watching, waiting. Maya realized the horrifying truth. The room's growth and the multiplication of these black ghosts were connected to her fear. The more terrified she became, the more the space stretched, the more the shadows multiplied. She was trapped in a place that fed on her dread, an endless nightmare where the walls, doors, and windows existed only to torment her further. Every heartbeat echoed through the hall as the black ghosts silently closed in, and Maya understood she might never escape the room alive. Asterisk. Maya Singh had grown wary of the new windows appearing around her room, but nothing could have prepared her for this. One window showed her own reflection, seemingly ordinary at first, until she noticed subtle differences. The reflection did not move exactly as she did, it lingered, then shifted its gaze independently. A faint, wicked smile spread across its face, and its lips moved, mouthing words she couldn't hear. A cold dread gripped her chest. She stepped back instinctively, but the reflection stepped forward, as if trying to reach through the glass. Her own movements became hesitant, mirrored only in part, while the reflection seemed to anticipate her actions. Around her, the room continued to expand subtly, walls stretching slightly, floorboards bending, and corners elongating. From the shadows at the edges of her vision, the black ghosts, tall, humanoid, featureless forms made of dense mist with faint red glows gathered. They circled silently, moving fluidly around the room, their presence intensifying the oppressive atmosphere. Occasionally, one would appear in the window behind her reflection, merging with the glass and distorting her perception. Maya's heartbeat thundered in her ears as panic mounted. Every glance at the reflection made it more alive, more sinister, more determined. The black ghost's movement grew more deliberate, weaving around her and the reflection, feeding on the fear radiating from her every nerve. By the end of the scene, she realized the horrifying truth. The windows were no longer mere portals or mirrors, they were traps. Her own reflection had become a predator, and the shadows had multiplied to ensure she could never escape. The room, the reflections, and the ghosts were all part of a terrifying ecosystem, feeding on her terror and keeping her trapped in this photorealistic nightmare. Asterisk. Time stopped making sense. The hallway kept stretching, growing longer with every step she took. New doors appeared out of nowhere, each opening into corridors that twisted in impossible ways. The windows showed realities that shouldn't exist, warped streets, broken skies, and shadows moving with intention. Those shadows, they were everywhere now. Silent. Watching. Waiting. She tried to scream, but the room swallowed her voice whole. And in that suffocating silence, she finally understood. This place wasn't expanding. It was consuming her. The growing room had taken her completely. The third story is the shifting theater. 4 friends sneaked into an abandoned old theater, laughing at the legends. But the moment they stepped inside, something felt wrong. The stage looked farther away, the rows of seats seemed longer, and balconies appeared where none had been a second ago. Every step they took, the theater stretched around them, growing bigger, shifting silently like it was alive and watching them. As they moved deeper inside, the rows of seats began multiplying, stretching endlessly into the dark. New balconies appeared above them, rising higher with every step. Every exit led to another impossible corridor, and in the shadows, tall black figures stood silently, watching, waiting. The moment they approached the stage, everything changed. The wooden platform groaned and stretched, rising higher and expanding deeper into pitch-black darkness as if the theater itself were unfolding. The red curtains shivered without any wind, sliding apart and closing again like something breathing behind them. Then the shadows on the stage began to move, slow at first, then twisting, stretching, forming tall humanoid shapes that had no faces, only shifting darkness. The friends froze as they realized the theater wasn't abandoned. Something ancient had been waiting behind those curtains, and now it was waking up, drawn to their fear. One by one, the friends began to vanish. At first, they thought it was just a prank, but every disappearance matched the shadows moving closer. The theater felt alive, walls stretching, balconies forming out of nowhere, slowly pulling them deeper into its impossible, shifting maze. The remaining friends were lost in an endless maze of seats and corridors. Black ghosts multiplied around them, circling silently, feeding on their rising panic. Every escape route twisted into new impossible parts of the theater, until even the exits vanished. Hours, maybe even days had passed, though none of them could tell. The theater had swallowed everything familiar, consuming their sense of space and time. Every row of seats stretched into impossible darkness, every balcony twisted and multiplied above them. Shadows hovered over every surface, silent, patient, watching, waiting. The friends stumbled forward, trying every exit, but the corridors twisted and shifted before their eyes, swallowing any path to escape. Dust swirled in the faint light of flickering chandeliers, the air heavy and suffocating. Each heartbeat echoed too loudly, each breath felt trapped. Panic clawed at them as they realized the horrifying truth: the theater wasn't just a building. It was alive, expanding endlessly, feeding on their fear, and they would never leave. The shifting theater had claimed them, an eternal, impossible nightmare where darkness and fear had taken form. So that was the end of episode 53 of Dynamic Dark. If these chilling tales and haunted stories made you shiver, tell us in the comments which story kept you awake tonight. the most terrifying comment. I, Aditya, will pin it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and enable notifications bell so you never miss our next descent into the unknown. And share this video with your friends and family if they can handle the fear. Have a haunted location, creepy encounter, or urban legend to share? Drop it in the comments. The idea with the most likes will be featured in our next episode. Episode 54 is coming soon, where we will dive deep into creepypasta horror stories, uncover darker mysteries, cursed places, and secrets that linger where the shadows never sleep. Stay tuned, keep watching, and dare to explore the terrifying unknown with Dynamic Dark every episode at 7:45 p.m.